Welcome back to my big fact portal. You're very lucky, so you are, that you've got me to give you all the facts as often as I do. Someone said to me once, Mr. Stephen, if anything goes wrong with you in a medical way and they need to get you to a hospital to have some kind of operation, that they're going to cut you up, and instead of finding all the organs like your liver and your spleen and kidneys, etc., that they'll simply just find hundreds and hundreds of facts, and that they won't know how to fix you up because they don't know how to stitch the facts back together. They've only been trained and have practiced the art of stitching up, normal organs, fixing valves and stuff like that, but they don't know how to fix a big body full of facts. So I've got that to look forward to when that eventually happens, folks, because it will. Now, I had an email through the night from a woman that has to remain nameless, and the reason she has to remain nameless is because she's got a very jealous husband. I'm very sorry to hear that your husband's as jealous as he is. I wish it wasn't the case. Also, if you do need me to come and teach him a few manners, then that's something I will do. Not a lot of people know this, but I'm quite adept at the various styles of martial arts. I'm not afraid to use them either. So if you want me to come and teach your husband a few manners, just give me the green light and I'll be there for you. But you wanted me to answer your question. The question being, what you said to me was, Mr. Stephen, I see you out along the beach around the Worthing area. It's a lovely beach, and it is. I'm very lucky indeed to live in such a place. Every now and again you come across a big bunch of rocks, like the big rocks that you see. These big rocks here. And as you can see, there's a few up there as well. Mr. Stephen, I was just wondering what those big rocks are for. Well, I know what they're for. It's a very, very good story. But first, you have to jump in my time machine, which is not, I'm afraid to say, a DeLorean, but more of a Volvo. But I'll still get us there, anyway. Well, we need to go back in time until the 1970s, the early 70s. Now, around that time, folks, and up until that time, Worthing Beach was not a very nice beach. It's not the lovely beach you see here today. It was a very mucky beach. It was all like soil, very like brown sand. And it was quite unsightly when it got wet, especially. And of course it did get wet because it was coming into frequent contact with all the water that you see out there in the sea. The people of Worthing weren't very proud of their beach, which is a terrible thing. They weren't proud of it at all. They would say things like, "Oh, down the road in Brighton, they've always got the best stuff in Brighton. They get the best restaurants, the best shops, and they got the best beach. Their beach is far nicer than ours. Ours is just a mucky heap." And they were right, folks. They were absolutely right to think like that. So in 1970, in walks Mr. Rafi, a gentleman called Mr. Rafi. That's right, you heard it here first. Now, Mr. Rafi, folks, was quite the mover and shaker in Worthing around the time. He owned a few of the fish and chip shops. What else did he own? He owned some of the beauty salons as well, and a couple of the big jacuzzi shops to cater for the, middle-aged swingers, of which there are a few around here. Mr. Rafi was a very wealthy man. He said to himself, "I'm going to do something about this beach." So he went to the town council, who owned it at the time, and he said, I want to buy the beach from you. They said, "Why do you want to buy the beach, Mr. Rafi?" And he says, "I'm going to make it nice. It's an embarrassment. I'm sick of looking at it. Other people who live here are sick of looking at it as well. I want to make Worthing Beach something to be truly proud of." So they looked at one another, and with that sort of look in their eyes, have to say, well, it is a terrible, terrible beach. If Mr Rafi can do something with it, then I think we should give him that opportunity. So they did, sold it to him for a good price. They were happy, Mr Rafi was happy, and he got to work. The method by which he made the beach nice is really quite ingenious. He decided that once a year he was going to hold this big rock cutting festival on the beach. Now, Mr Rafi, being a bit of an entrepreneur, he did own a couple of quarries just north there somewhere. So he got all these big rocks here, had them all brought down, and lined them up at various parts of the beach, as you see there. He said once a year at the big rock cutting festival, I'm going to get all the local people down, going to make a real event out of it. Going to open up my fish and chip shops for the day, a few ice cream vans. Moira will be there in her falafel shack, as she always is. As a wee fella, a local fella, doing dressed crab as well. So that'll be good. It'll be good fun. Get all the old people down out of the nursing homes if they can walk, if they can make it this far. Give them something to do. All the families out. It'll be a good day. A day full of spectacle. And the spectacle I'll tell you about now. So he got these big yellow lorries, had the big skips on the back of them, had this special springs installed on the backs of the lorries, so that it would basically act like a bit of a very powerful catapult. What they did is they took some of these big rocks that you see here, and it got all the bodybuilders down from some of the local gyms here. So I got them out of the gym for a day, and they like to top up their tan as well. And the event was always held in May, so it was always usually a sunny day. So that made the bodybuilders happy to get out in the sunshine too and show off, which they like doing. And he got them boys down. What they did, their job was to roll the big rocks, roll them into the backs of the lorries, into the big catapult sling, if you like. So they did that, and then what happened was the big rocks, folks, would be flung out into sea out there. Now, you can't see today. You can't see because it's a wee bit misty. But out there, there's like a big wind farm out there, and you can't see the turbines today, but normally you can. The idea was that Mr Rafi, he owned them too. He would switch them on to the highest possible setting and aim the rocks out at them, and once the rocks get there with the right trajectory, it'd be all the turbines would be going like this, and basically they would cut the big rocks up into wee tiny rocks, like this sort of size here. They would fall to the seabed, and slowly but surely they would start making their way up to the beach here in Worthing. By the time they arrived, they'd be lovely round pebbly stones like this one here, and that was Mr Rafi's technique to make the beach all nice and pebbly. They did that once a year. That should keep the beach nicely replenished with the stones. Absolutely genius, Mr Rafi. What a good spot he is. But anyway, that very first year, the inaugural rock cutting festival, very strange incident happened. There was a wee fella down here with his mum, a toddler, maybe 4 or 5 years old, name it Dennis. What Dennis did, because he didn't really know any better, he climbed into the backs of one of the big lorries that was acting as the big rock sling. And he got in there thinking it'd be a good place to have a nap, because he was feeling a wee bit tired with all the excitement. And he was flung with the rock out into the sky toward the wind turbines out there. Now, the rock, much to Mr Rafi's relief, did meet its fate and got chopped up into lots of tiny wee rocks. But Dennis, being considerably smaller and lighter than the big rock, continued his journey through the sky out there. He did end up landing safely in the water, thankfully, very close to a local fishing boat. It was out there catching their daily brill, and if they're lucky, a bit of turbot and red snapper too. But they caught a wee boy as well this day, and that wee boy was Dennis. So he landed quite close to them out there, and they got him aboard, wrapped him up warm, said, "You'll be all right, you'll be all right, son. We'll get you back to shore," which is what they did. They got him back to shore. Of course, Dennis's mum was beside herself with worry. She goes, "Dennis, Dennis, Dennis, where have you been? Where have you been?" So he told her what had happened, and of course she said, "Well, why the hell did you climb in there in the first place? That's a really stupid thing to do." And he says, "I'm sorry, Mummy. I was just feeling really, really tired. What with all the excitement of this inaugural rock cutting festival that Mr Rafi so generously organised. Had I known that it was in fact a big kind of catapult sling, and I was about to be sent out into the sky at 150 miles an hour, then I might have thought twice. But I am only 5 years old, so I didn't know these things. And you have to hand it to Dennis. He does have a good point. But you know, she got Dennis home, and you know, gave him a nice plate of beans. Everyone was happy. He didn't seem too traumatized. But fast forward to today, ladies and gentlemen. Now the rock cutting festival still happens here in May every year. The young lad Dennis is now a fully grown man, and he comes down still with his mother. He's sort of like a guest of honor at the rock cutting festivals these days. He rocks up. He has his picture taken with Mr Rafi, just to show there's no hard feelings about what happened all those years ago. And you know what, it wasn't Mr Rafi's fault anyway. You know, if anything, it was Dennis's fault for climbing in there, but he was a young child, didn't know any better. So he'd shake hands with Mr Rafi. He'd go around chatting to the old people who had made it out for the day. Got himself a wee ice cream, but he tended to not hang around very long, folks, and I'll tell you why. In the intervening years since the incident where Dennis was flung out there, and today, he's developed some serious anger management issues. Now, how these manifest is quite weird. When he gets a bit fed up and he's been around people for too long, like every year at the rock cutting festival, he starts spitting after about 30 minutes. He just can't control it. He starts spitting everywhere like this. It's just terrible. It's very unpleasant for everyone involved. After that 30 minutes or so, he does spit for about 30 minutes, but after that comes phase 2 of his anger, and that is even worse. He goes around, he just goes around kicking people up their bums, which is particularly unpleasant for the older folk that have just come down to watch the big rocks being flung out to get cut into wee tiny rocks, because you don't know what's going on down there with the old people's bums. Here comes Dennis, all fed up and annoyed, going around kicking them up their bum. But his mum knew every year now, she would keep her eye on her watch to know when she'd look, oh, it's 29 minutes we've been here, Dennis will turn. Dennis is about to turn. And as soon as that first spit came out of Dennis's mouth, she said, "Right, get in the back of the wee Honda, I'm going to take you home." So that's what she did. Inside the Honda, she also had one of her neighbours kindly installed one of those big plastic screens like they have in some of the taxis. This was basically to protect the back of Dennis's mum's head from all his spitting, which there would be a lot of, and also the dashboard area as well. She wanted to keep that all free of spit, and why wouldn't she? That's basic hygiene. As she got him home, say, "Right, Dennis, just calm down, calm down, calm down. I'm going to make you your favourite meal, which is a wee bowl of beans. Would you like that?" He'd be, "Yes, Mummy." So she did that for him, and then Dennis would calm down. And once he was calmed down, he and his mother could sit there and slowly start looking forward to next May for the next rock cutting festival. And that's pretty much the story. There you go. Nameless lady, mysterious nameless lady that you are out there, who emailed me with a jealous husband. One very nice ending to this story, folks. Mr Rafi is still around, and started a romantic liaison with none other than Dennis's mum. So we're very excited for them here to see how that goes. It all started, he invited her to one of his 2 jacuzzi shops after hours. Thank you very much. After hours, Dirty Rafi. He made her a lovely pie and chips meal, and they had that in a nice jacuzzi, so a nice bubbly pie and chips. And he opened up all the Prosecco as well, before getting down to some serious business, I'm sure. But that all seems to be going very, very well indeed. I'm very happy for Dennis's mum, because she's had quite an unhappy life, really. And Mr Rafi, despite being a very rich man, does seem to be a very nice man. So that's very good. That's very good. That makes us happy here. Makes me very happy indeed. I mean, it's a very strange story, though, isn't it? I mean, you couldn't really make it up, folks.